last week on the Nicoletti Show. Without further ado, let's welcome him to the show, George Salas. George, what's up, man?
I'm going to quit everything else I'm doing. I'm just going to focus on real estate. That's the first lesson, right? Never partner with somebody without vetting them and really understanding and getting on the same page.
That's a huge topic that comes up in a lot of real estate investor meetups.
If we do a pre-screening and they don't meet our requirement of 3 to 5x, then we don't go for it. We're breaking $100,000 in revenue every single month. People will try so many things until the one thing works.
I think that's huge value right there. Keep going. You're on a roll, man.
It is the age of the professional host, and those who become professionals will be successful. 56 categories. If you don't fall into one of those categories, you're essentially a regular property. If you don't pivot with the industry, you're going to get left behind. Once you've got anything in your head, you've got the vision.
Yeah.
Right? Once you understand it, it's called clarity. There's always a dream. Don't let anything or anyone stop you from your dreams. Thank you so much for having me, brother. Appreciate you. It's been an honor.
Yeah, no, thank you, George. I'll see you soon, man. Boy, if you missed that episode last week with George Salas, it was jam-packed with everything on short-term rentals, the Airbnb, where the market's headed, where to invest, and what to look out for, and the ways you can generate wealth. It was a jam-packed episode, so I encourage you, go back, check it out. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. You can find it. And George dropped so many golden nuggets out there. So George, you did a great job on that show. Love it, and keep going with what you're doing. And of course, you can find all the amazing guests on the Nicoletti Show on the YouTube channel, Facebook, and all the micro that's constantly dropping on Instagram at Attorney Nicoletti. And we have guests from season 1, season 2, season 3. So check it out. And all the amazing guests like tonight, Mark Drager, who's coming on the show. It's going to be an amazing episode talking all about branding. We're going to get into like social media stuff and how do you really take what you're doing in your business and really blow it up so you have that brand awareness, that recognition, so you can keep generating leads. It's going to be so cool what we're going to talk about. So I'm super excited. I see you all are watching out there Wednesday night, 9 p.m. How's everybody doing? Like this is going to be another fire episode with an amazing guest. So I hope you all stay tuned. Get your pens out, paper, take tons of notes because Mark is going to drop so many gems and golden nuggets on brand. So I'm super excited. You know how I do this thing. Let's rock it. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate and business. Real estate and business. What we're going to talk about tonight isn't even just real estate. It's going to be focused in real estate and how you get your brand out there. But you can really take a lot of the nuggets that Mark talks about tonight and really apply them to really your business and what you're doing. Maybe you haven't even started your business. Maybe you're in your business, you're 10 years in, and you got to reinvent and transform yourself. Because the guests that we bring on the Al Nicoletti Show, they have unique abilities, special abilities that can really help elevate your game on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show tonight, I got Mark Drager. This guy is amazing. I've seen him on stage at Family Mastermind. I've seen him all around the family, and what he brings to the table when it comes to brand and brand awareness and really putting yourself out there is huge, right? In all of our businesses, in any business you have, you got to have the ability to put yourself out there, to have an image. And he's going to talk about that today. And what I really want to do, and Mark and I have talked about this, is really talk about the beginning stage, the intermediate stage. And let's just say you're already there. What's the advanced stage, right? You know, we don't want it to just be all the beginner stuff, right? We want to break down the building blocks to how you do it, but really, where does it go? How advanced does it get? So we're going to talk about that. It's going to be huge. And on the show today, this is great because you're going to love this guy. We're going to talk about how nobody wants a brand. I mean, I don't know how nobody wants a brand. This is going to be, you've got to have the brand out there. You got to put yourself out there, which is huge. And how the market is now more competitive than ever and why it's important and how perception is truth. Everyone judges a book by its cover. You got to invest in yourself. Wow. Can't wait till we get to that, Mark. That's going to be big. You got to invest in yourself. Truly believe that before you can really keep scaling your business. I believe that. And where people get stuck in the journey. right? Where do people get stuck in all the branding? And the 3 players in winning sales. There's so much more we're going to cover tonight, but those are the building blocks. So I'm super excited. Get your pens out, get your paper out, because this is going to be great. Let's welcome him to the show, Mark Drager. Mark, love seeing you, man.
Let's go. Here we are. Al, man, thank you for having me. What an intro.
Thank you. We always have fun on this show, Mark. I mean, every show, whether, before in season 1, when I was doing it pre-recorded or live, there's definitely a vibe, a feel to it. And, we love really introducing the guests, bringing you on and telling everybody, hey, this is what we're going to go through. So I'm super pumped. I want everybody to know. Yeah.
Listen, I got to live up to George. I mean, I wrote this quote down. Once you understand it, it's called clarity. I'm like, I don't know if you can see me in the waiting room. I laughed so hard. I love that. It's like, let's do some unlocks today. Let's go, right?
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Anything that you can unlock the secrets to all the branding stuff. I mean, this is going to be huge. So we got to tell everybody, who's Mark Drager? Where were you, years ago? How did you really find your groove into the branding world that you're in today?
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you for having me. Thank you for the great intro. So back when I was 23 years old, in 2006, my wife and I got married very young. We had our first daughter. And a few days after she was born, I had this idea. I was like, I think I should quit my $45,000 a year job. I'm the sole breadwinner. I think I should quit my job to start this company, Fanta Media. And at the time, I was working for a franchise company. I was working at the head office of the franchisor, making videos for them. So I was responsible for doing like corporate communications and training and franchise development, marketing. And I learned a lot at the time, 2005, 2006, learning about internet marketing. It was the early days. We shot everything on tape. I don't know. You're younger than me.
Yeah.
But if our audience is even younger, they may not realize that back in 2005, 2007, YouTube wasn't even owned by Google yet. Videos were 3 minutes long. You couldn't put them on the internet very well. And that was the time where I was like, I'm going to start my own company. And really that's what happened. I wanted to just make videos. I just wanted to start a company. I just wanted to be able to make something and frankly make more money and help people. But over time, 2009, we get through the recession. I don't know if we want to spend too much time on how bad things got for me, but let's just say over the first few years, I learned some hard lessons, and communications in my world became marketing. Social media happens, and suddenly now, big companies are willing to hire us to make videos for marketing. And then by 2010, 2011, 2012, it starts to become advertising, right? Like we moved from communicating on the internet to marketing on the internet to advertising on the internet. By 2015, 16, 17, we're doing national commercial campaigns. We're working with some of the world's largest brands. We're working with some of the coolest startups in pre-revenue. And as I grew my agency to a multi-million-dollar agency, and we're working on bigger and bigger projects, what happened was all along the way, I was spending most of my time on strategy, helping people figure out what they need to do, how they need to show up, what they need to look like, what they need to say, how the campaign needs to feel, all of those things. And at a certain point, I realized I'm not even making videos. I have my team doing it. I'm not even doing any of this stuff. I'm just a strategist. And so for anyone who starts as a designer or anyone who starts in film or anyone who starts making websites, at a certain point, you have to decide, am I going to stop pushing the buttons or am I going to become a strategist? If you're in real estate investing, if you're in wholesale, if you're in flipping, at a certain point, you're going to stop pulling the toilets out. You're going to stop replacing the kitchen cabinets. You're going to stop trying to figure out how to rebuild the porch. You're going to hire crew to do it, and you're going to become, a project manager or a general contractor or really a strategist, the person who figures out how to make the money work, how to make the sales work, what it needs to look like. That's the same as my world. Eventually, you graduate out of it. And that's how I ended up doing what I do today.
That's really cool. Having done a lot of content back in 2007 and on, let's start there because I do want to get into some of the struggles too. I think that's really important with business. I mean, as much as you do want to get into, but I think that's important too, because so many people start up a business and then all of a sudden there's a crazy event, maybe '08 or a pandemic. And all of a sudden what they wanted to do now, they've had to pull back and all the dreams and aspirations go away. But for you, you just pivoted, you were flexible and you transformed what you were already doing into something different, but in the same realm, which is cool. Let me ask you on video content, where have you seen video content really transform from the time you were doing it to what everybody's doing today?
Well, dude, it's like the dinosaur ages. Like back when we started, the videos we were making were like this. Since 1985, ABC Corporation has been helping the world transform, like fill in weird adjective with blah, blah, blah. Now let's go on for 12 minutes about stuff you don't care about, but we made a $50,000 video, so we hope you'll watch. Like that's what videos used to be. And then at a certain point, it was like more, we were doing a lot of corporate overviews, we called them, but people call them brand films today. When I started, I don't know if you guys remember the internet in 2007, but a big thing we were doing early on were these things called like website welcomes or walk-ons, where we would shoot people on green screen and they would actually like walk out onto their website and they would say, "Hi, welcome to XYZ website. If you're looking for more information on us, click the link right over there." Like people would walk on. They would walk onto their page. So we were doing that kind of stuff, but the vast majority of the work that we did up until about 2017 or 18 was mainly focused on corporate. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're running a business that has 7-figure payroll, you need to go where the money is.
Right.
And so while my heart it was always with like startup entrepreneurs, small organizations, frankly, like we had to just go where the budgets were. So as time went on, the projects became bigger. They became more complex. If you go back to 11, 2012, 2013, 2014, a lot of people were still thinking about like, how do we make a commercial or a short film or a story and just put it on the internet? And then suddenly it became, how do we make one commercial or short film or story and then do cut downs, right? Like all of you talked about micro content earlier, right?
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, it was like, how do we put no money into that big thing and just produce a lot of little things? And truthfully, there's always room at the top for like the biggest, fanciest thing. But the market is really commoditized. I watched it with all of my friends who owned website development companies. You go back to 2005, 6, 7, and 8, people were charging a lot of money to build a website. And then suddenly somewhere along the way, it's like, well, like you can just hire a developer. You can just go with WordPress. You can just, get Wix. You could just, do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Squarespace, perfect example. You can just go with Webflow. You can just drag and drop. You can build landing pages on ClickFunnels or on Unbounce. Like you don't need all of these things. And I'm sitting there looking at my team, of at the time like 12, 14, 15 people. I'm looking at the payroll that I'm paying. I'm looking at what I'm charging, and I'm going, oh, the end is near. like the days of me being able to go like, that one training video is $65,000, and them go like, okay, like it was just the days were numbered and things were commoditizing more, and we wanted to do better and better and better work, which takes time. Better and better and better work takes more specialists with more time, and that's payroll. And so as we wanted better and better and better and better, it means we need more payroll dollars, and our clients wanted to spend less and less and less so they could increase their volume and do more on all these different places. And frankly, there was just like, maybe other people were able to survive or pivot or change, but I was like, I have to change how we're running our business. And that's kind of what took us into 2018, 19, pandemic.
Right.
So the world has changed a lot in the 15 or 16 years that I've been doing this.
And knowing all of that though, Mark, where do you see things going beyond where we are now? Like, everybody's either doing reels or, TikToks and stuff like that, like really short micro content. Where do you see it going beyond that? Right? Like basically what's next after that? Because you've just seen the progression.
Yeah.
So you must see in your mind, like maybe a couple different avenues. Cause I make content with Mike, my producer, like we're always making content. It's like, what's next?
Well, anyone who tells you what's next is totally full of crap. I mean, truthfully, no one knows. But I can tell you a few things. One, everything is cyclical, right? So the thing that gets attention is doing the thing that other people aren't doing and kind of being ahead of the curve. So if everyone's making super short form content, suddenly someone who's making super long form content is going to be like, wow, this is so different. And so truthfully, story always wins. Really effective educational content will always win because people want that on demand, right? I have a question. Oh, here is an answer. But let me share. You may remember, like, my first cell phone was this like Nokia phone that I could only play Snake on, and it was a pretty good phone, but it was kind of small. It was this little thing. And there's this amazing Saturday Night Live skit with Will Ferrell where he's like this European guy, and it's like maybe in 2000, 2001, and he pulls out the tiniest little phone, and he's like, hello? Because at the time, everybody wanted a smaller phone. Smaller, until Apple came along and developed the iPhone with a screen on it. And then now, like, phones are like ridiculous. Like, this is not a big phone. Compared to like some people have like, like I always pictured that one day it's going to be like people are going to be holding like their 15-inch laptop up against their head, right?
Right.
Because function changed, and so we thought everything would get smaller and smaller till somehow like Bluetooths are in our ears or chips are planted in our heads. It's just going to get smaller, but then it changed when it's like, oh, let's change the device. So the algorithm, whatever it is what will dictate happens in the future. But what won't change is the need for story, the need to say something that other people aren't saying, the need to be compelling, focusing on emotion, focusing on what your audience is interested in, wants to hear, being engaging. None of those things will change. And those are all skill sets we can all develop through repetition and other things. Podcasts, they've been 2006, they started to get established. They really blew up in 2015 through 18. A lot of people are jumping on board now. You have a podcast, I have a podcast, we're doing all of this stuff, but we don't know if suddenly 5-hour podcasts will be in the future or 18-minute podcasts. Should they get shorter? Should they get long? We don't know. Should they be chapterized? Should they be immersive? Should they be in VR? Like, we don't know where that's going, but our skill sets will help take us wherever it happens to go.
Awesome stuff right there, right? So that whole skill set right there, plus doing something different than everybody else is doing, constantly pivoting and reinventing what's happening out there. That's something to be aware of, right? Watch what's happening, but what's different, right? Stand out from the pack. I love that. And also, like, what you were talking about is in your business, you took all of what you had done in the past, and in your business, you became the strategist, right? Like, you put all the pieces together and became like, the consultant, the strategist, and really help people figure out their brand. Where did that come along in the mind of Mark? Like, I think that's a unique thing too, right? How did you get there?
Yeah. You know where the seed was planted? It was just fear of failure. So when I had that first job at this internet marketing franchise at the head office I worked for, we had 1,500 offices in 89 countries and territories. I'm like imagine, like, I'm 21, I think, when I got the job, or 22, fresh out of film school. And I've never worked in a corporate job. I worked in television. I worked in, film and like holding cameras and stuff. And suddenly it's like, I got to wear a tie, and I have to meet with the VP of marketing and the VP of operations and franchise development and the VP of accounting and knowledge management. And I'm working outside of the founder's office and the president's. And I got to meet with like legal counsel. Like, on my first week, my boss said, meet with every single head of department and ask them what they are planning for the quarter. I mean, like, I have no corporate experience, dude. Like, I don't know what I'm doing at all. And I'm just like taking notes. And really what happened was I went to my manager and I was like, they all want all of this stuff. How do I prioritize it? And he's like, oh, okay, I'll teach you how to like manage that. And then I said, they're all asking for this stuff that I don't even know what they're talking about. Like how am I supposed to make something for them if I don't know what they're talking about, and I don't really know what they want, and I don't really, like, how am I supposed to make something if I don't understand what it is that their expectations are? And he's like, oh, well, why don't we just come up with like a questionnaire or something you can ask? And that was the thing that saved me. Like really right away when I started my agency, right away on day one, I had developed, and we really marketed this hard because it differentiated ourselves from the market. But we called it a communication analysis. Like, hey, Al, in your business, you want to make a video because you would like to convert more people on your landing page to sign up. Cool. But when you call me, you don't call me and say, Mark, I want help making a video because I have a landing page that's part of a sales funnel and I want to increase conversion on it. You would never say that. You'd say like, I need a video. Okay.
Right.
Where like, what do you, and I got really good at answering these questions, but it always followed the same 5 pieces of logic, which was help me understand what the objectives are, like the business objectives, the campaign objectives, and what do you want this specific asset to actually accomplish? So help me understand what's happening in the business. Help me understand why you're putting money towards this entire campaign so I can understand the context of it. But then, like, what do you want the video to do? You just want people to watch it? Do you want them to love you? Do you want them to move forward and actually type something in? Like, I need to know that. And once we understand the objectives, part 2, who is the target audience? Who are we speaking to? And what, like, do they know you or do they not know you? Are they deep in the process or are they not deep in the process? What is it that they want, which is number 3, their motivations. Like not only their internal motivations to move forward, but why, how did they find this? Why did they find this? What do they want? Do they want to move forward through your process or not? Like, does this actually make sense? And then number 4, what were the elements? Like what was the context that brought them there? If they come from, these are old days, but if they came from a PPC ad, a Google AdWords ad, and they're looking for red shoes, and they land on a landing page that says, we sell red shoes. And there's a video there that has people holding red shoes. Okay, cool. The video doesn't have any heavy lifting to do at all, right? Like the context of how you found it makes sense. If the person though was like, if you wanted to like create a Facebook ad that's interrupting someone's day and stopping the scroll, right? 1, it's interruptive advertising. They're not looking for it. They don't want it, which means we need a curious hook. We need to stop them on the scroll. Then we need to get them to pay attention for a few seconds. Then we need to build enough curiosity to get them to click through to the landing page. It's just a very different context. And then the last thing I would focus on, which is what most people focus on, is like, what is the video going to say? And so I boiled it down to these 5 parts. Each one can be blown out to like, we had this 30-page or 30-point questionnaire. It would take like an hour and a half to go through. And it was really deep. And it was like, what's the heart of the matter? And what's the tone? And tell me about the skeletons in your closet. Like I wanted to understand because I was terrified that you would hand me 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 250 grand. And then what I give you back, you'd be like, what? I didn't ask for this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want this. Or you'd be like super excited about it and we give it back to you and it just wouldn't work. And you'd come back and you say, Mark, I wanted a video that would stop people in their tracks on Facebook. Like it's not doing that. So it was really fear that had me develop this. But project after project, year after year after year, I got really good at it. And then I had this light bulb moment one day when we call these things the big 5. And I wrote a white paper on the big 5, right? Objectives, target audience, motivation, context, and then message. And I realized, oh, this applies to everything. This applies to the keynote presentation. This applies to this applies to what you write in like the listing ad. This applies to when you want to recruit more team members. It's all the same stuff. Like, what is my goal? Who am I speaking to? What do they care about? What's the context and how do they understand me? And then what's the message? And that was when I realized, I was like, oh, I could do any marketing.
Fascinating, because I feel like what you're getting into is talking about like, what is branding? I feel like all of this stuff that you're talking, all these questions, the deeper, who's the audience, what's the context, the hook points, is building a brand, because people think building a brand is a logo. People think it's just having an image, a website, having photos with a logo there, or just constantly putting yourself out there. It's a lot more than that. It's a message. It's what you're trying to convey and what makes you different, your core values. So let's talk about that, because whether it's real estate, we'll keep it real estate. So because you know that world too, right? But it doesn't matter, right? Everybody watching out there, it doesn't matter. You can apply a lot of these things that Mark's talking about to the business that you're doing. So Mark, let's start at a basic level, right? Like whether it's getting the website together, the social media together, or maybe there's other things when you're starting in the beginner stage, right? Beginner stage. Because like you were saying, nobody wants a brand. And I mean, I want to know what that means, but why? And it's crazy because for me, you do want a brand, right? You do want a brand. You want somebody, when they see something, they think of you for this, and you're speaking to them. So tell us like the beginning stages of this, and why would nobody want a brand?
Well, there's two answers to that question. The first is, you don't want a brand. I don't want a brand. No one wants a brand. What we want is we want to stand out from our competition, right? What we want is to generate more leads, have quicker velocity of sale, increase our profitability. What we want is to be able to have the pick of the cream of the crop for our talent, or have negotiating power against our vendors and contractors. What we want is more sales, right? Like part of what makes us so effective at branding and strategy on the marketing side is we spend a lot of time on the psychology and mindset side of things. And truthfully, the only reason that people invest in advertising, marketing, branding, communications, whatever you want to call it, it comes down to two things. Right? We want to make more money. So whatever we do better eventually lead to a sale or profitability, or because we're all human and we all have ego and we all have pride, we want to be better than other people. So, and if we're better than other people, guess what it leads to? More sales.
More sales.
So the reason I say you don't want a brand, and I know that you don't want a brand, is because if you wanted a brand, you would be doing the things you need to do and making the investments you need to make to build a brand. Nobody does it. People don't do it. Here's what people actually do. They focus on tactics, right? You mentioned the website. You mentioned social media. We talked about video. Great. They're all tactics. This podcast is a tactic, right? We think about tactics. We go to a conference and we're like, oh, someone said that I need to be on TikTok. And then, a mortgage broker finds themselves like dancing, right? And doing all these weird things because it's a tactic. Is it on brand? Is it working? Is it helping you? Does it provide an ROI? Does it even make any sense? Is it actually hurting you? Right? Like, who cares? I went to a conference and someone said that I got to be there. Right? Like, so that's why I say that people don't want a brand. But it's really important that we actually have a brand, that we actually think about how we represent ourselves. Because if we played a little game, like let's play a little game. You are a lawyer, so let's see if this works out. What kind of car do you drive?
A Honda Accord.
Do you? Oh man, I wanted something fancier than
It's
that.
a coupe too, black. I love that. I saw it way back when, and I was like, "That's the car I want."
Okay, sunroof. I mean, you're in Florida. You gotta have a sunroof, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's imagine that I showed up in a 1987 Chevette, right? Do you remember Chevettes?
I don't even.
You don't even know what a Chevette is. It's a hatchback. It didn't have a rear view mirror. It only had one mirror on the side. It was a 2-door. I think it was a 3-speed. Yeah. Let's imagine you showed up in a rusted out old Hyundai Accent, right? Versus your nice Honda, or my wife has a Pacifica that we really enjoy. I got a Ram that I love, a pickup truck. The point is though that if you showed up at a meeting, if you showed up to a family function, if you showed up somewhere and you showed up in the old, POS rusted out thing, people would think differently of you than in your nice Honda Accord, right? Like it's just people would think differently of that. Or let's imagine that I know that you've been going through a health journey. You've been going through a health journey. You've been losing a lot of weight. You've been crushing it. You've been getting fit. I went through my own health journey. I lost 70 pounds. When I was like a size 40 waist and an extra large shirt, and every time I got up, I had to like pull up my pants and I had to kind of like huff and puff a bit to tie my shoes, versus being much lighter and putting on muscle mass and like running Spartan races and stuff. I can honestly tell you people treat me differently. Do people treat you differently, do you think? Do you carry yourself with a little more confidence when you show up looking the part?
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, of course you do. Or let's say that you go to your favorite restaurant and they plate the food and it's just like, it smells amazing. The atmosphere is great, right? Like everything is, you're having an amazing, they bring the dinner and then they tell you the story that, well, this meal that you're making, this is all locally farmed from down the street. And the chef took extra time to hand make the dressing and all of this stuff. Versus like, I don't know, it's 11:30 at night, you're super tired, you're running late, you just stop off at a window and pick up a drive-through burger or whatever, and it's smashed into the box, right? So in these playing this game, in these three scenarios, do you feel differently about either the way someone carries themselves, the confidence they may bring by looking the part, or even the story that helps frame why you're willing to spend, let's say, $30 on a hamburger versus that other thing, right? Being overweight and being out of shape, showing up in the terrible car, having that not really very good food because it's just been made by someone in a window, right? These things are different. And we know that they're different. And we understand that they're different. And we maybe don't even want that to be the case. Maybe we're like, oh, we're above it or what have you. But that's just the truth. And so why is your company or your brand or the way you carry yourself or the way you speak, why is the way that you look and the way that what you say and how you show up and what you look like and how you make people feel, why is that any different? Right? And so I'm not saying that you have to go luxury because you may not have to, or maybe it may not be smart. Walmart certainly has a brand that is not based on luxury, right? They've been able to do pretty well, but they have a brand.
Right.
IKEA uses all of these psychological pricing techniques to try and convince you that their furniture is low cost, when if you actually compared it, it's not low cost. They surround fairly expensive furniture with a lot of low cost things to make you think that it's low cost, so that way you'll buy more stuff. But my point is that all of this stuff is branding. But you don't want a brand. I don't want a brand. No one wants to invest in brand. We just want to do tactics. We just want to see what works. When really we should take a step back. We should take a step back and actually just establish who we are, what we stand for, who we're trying to go after, what we have to say, how we need to look, what we need to show up like all of the strategic elements before we jump onto the social platforms or make the websites or do the ClickFunnels landing pages or do the listing or hire the new people or whatever.
So let's take that and apply it to like a lot of things in the real estate world, right? Whether somebody's doing like short-term rentals, wholesaling, just pick anything, any type of a real estate niche. Maybe it's a note investing. Like, what is going through your mind when it's like an industry specific brand? I know you could take a lot of those same elements that you're talking about and apply it to the different businesses, but curate it for like a real estate business brand. Like,
well, I say no one wants a brand and it's tongue in cheek. I hope I made it clear. We all need brands.
Yeah.
You need a brand. I need a brand. We all need a brand. The biggest problem is everybody wants to do the thing. Like I'm going to put the $1,000 into the thing that's going to give me $5,000 back. And then when we go like, hey, let's take a step back and spend 2 or 3 months figuring out what we want to do, so we spend our money wisely. Let's spend a little bit of money now so we don't spend a lot of money later trying to figure stuff out. And they go like, yeah, but how's that going to give me money back? And you go like, well, it's the foundation that leads to the things that makes everything later more efficient and more profitable. And they're like, yeah, but I'd rather get sales right now.
Yeah.
Right.
You're basically saying like, before you even do the website, before you do social media, that messaging across, right? The core elements of the business, what you stand for, the emotional side of it. Right. So we work just real quick. We work with two types of people who, before they start something, they would rather take a little bit of time to invest the time and the money to make sure that when they do start, they are more efficient, they are more profitable, they're laser focused because they've already done the work. Or we work with, frankly, the more entrepreneurial approach, which is the person who's 3, 4, 5 years in, has been making a mess of everything, but they have now enough traction and they've gotten far enough along to realize that they've made a mess of everything and they need to take a step back, fix things, and then jump back into it. We work with both types of people, but there's no other person. Yeah. And like you were saying in all the examples, because I know it's something that we were talking about, which is perception, right? Perception is truth.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, I mean, whether it's like a really nice plate of dinner versus a smash burger in the box, the perception of both of them are completely different. Right. And so that says a lot about your business, right? That if you don't do it the right way, or you package it in a way that it's not all together, that's how it's going to look to everybody else.
Yeah.
So I seen that before too. It all of this is interesting because I know when I was building out websites and stuff, this was a conversation that I was having with the strategist about, you got to talk about all these things. And I'm thinking, oh, I got to write down, I got to sit down and, go through all this. But it's a lot more work, but I can see how the investment into it actually will play out for the perception to people outside. So whether you're in Airbnb, whether you're in just starting out in real estate, whatever that is, everybody thinks the logo, everybody thinks the name, that's all branding. I think there was somebody that talked about this. I don't know if it was at Family or where it was. They were saying how how many people think that logo's a brand, right? And then people actually raised, and he said the emotional side to your business and what you do is brand. And I was like, whoa,
so your logo is part of your brand, but your logo is not a brand. And your colors are part of your brand because they make people feel a certain way, or they help you stand out. Like I have this yellow wall behind me, and people often comment on like this yellow wall and how bright it is. And but I strategically, like, yellow's not my favorite color. I looked at the marketplace. I looked at those who do similar things to what I do, and I wanted to really be able to punch out and stand out on my icons on social media. And so I selected a version of yellow that I like. But yeah, I'm gonna own that. So your logo is not your brand, but it makes your brand. Your colors aren't, but they are. Your fonts aren't, but they are. Your photography style aren't, but they are. I'm looking at your Facebook page, and you got this amazing photo of you pointing down at your logo. And it looks like the photo's taken. It's taken in Florida because I can see the palm breaches and stuff.
it.
But yeah, I'm looking at it right now. But that photo is a little bit desaturated, meaning like there's not a lot of warmth or color in it. And it's not super bright. So it looks like, and I can see over your shoulder that it looks like it's maybe sunset or sunrise because the shadows are really long. So I can tell by looking at this photo, because I do this a lot, that this was probably taken at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night or something. You're pointing down. But I sure that you didn't spend time going like, okay, the fact that it's a little desaturated, that it's taken at night, that my skin tone looks a little bit green, doesn't give a lot of energy. Now, by the way you opened this podcast, by the fact that on your background you have little hexagon, different colored things, by the fact that you have all of these different things behind you, I know you want to bring energy to stuff. And so if I was working with you on brand strategy, I would want to know what kind of tone you have, what kind of brand you want to bring, what kind of feeling you want to bring. And if you wanted to bring energy to things, the way that you brought energy to this introduction, I would suggest we probably want to go brighter. We'd probably want to go with more punch. We probably want to go with more color. We'd probably want to stand out more. I love the fact that over your shoulder is this weird kind of like maybe Cuban influenced or Spanish influenced thing in the background. Is that what we want?
I got to take a look at this picture. I don't even remember.
Right. You don't remember the picture because you're like, whatever, I need a picture of this. but at a certain level, the way that you take your photos, your icons, the words you say, what you choose, like all of this stuff informs your brand, but each individual piece is not a brand.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like rethinking that goes on when it comes to this, right? Whether you've already done all these other things, website, social media, like, and you want to really value what you do and how you get that perception to the audience. That's huge. And that's crazy, Mark, that you can just see that photo and dissect it like that. I'd be like, all right, it needs to be more bright. And I know what time of the day it was and what's behind you in the theme. That's really interesting, right? You can tell. And there's probably something in the back of your mind saying, I probably would have done it at a different angle or a different time of the day, or, done something with the hue, whatever. I don't do any of that stuff, but like, I bet you would see it in a different way. So,
but what you did isn't wrong. But if you had standards, Like if you had to establish brand standards and you handed those standards to your designer, they could have followed them. Right? Like you could have worked with someone like me or whatever to do the expensive work or the slow work to figure out like how do you need to show up and what do you need to look like and what do you need to say. And then you don't have to guard every single thing. You take that instruction booklet, like the Lego booklet that shows you how to build everything step by step. You take that and then you go, hey, people who's making this stuff, like make sure you follow these steps. And then they have samples and they go like, oh, and then you can look at it and go like, well, these don't quite look right. They don't look the same. They don't have the same tone or feeling or whatever. Go make them right. And that's all it is. Because what I realize now in our conversation, we haven't talked about is we've talked about no one wants a brand. We've talked about that everyone wants more sales and all that. But how does a brand actually help you get those things? Like I almost feel like we need to spend a little bit of time establishing like why you might want to invest in these things that aren't just tactics.
Yeah. And I love how you describe it as tactics and then brand. Cause like, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, you have a podcast, you have all these videos that really just, the consistency of being out there almost establishes that brand. But let's elaborate on that. Where do you see that opening up doors when it comes to brand?
Yeah. And so what a really effective brand gives you is, I mean, it gives you a few it gives you a few strategic things, and then it gives you a few just other things. Like the brand new suit, like losing weight and putting on the brand new suit makes you feel like confident as hell when you step on stage. Trust me when I say that when you have a kick-ass brand, when you have a badass brand and people see your stuff, it immediately 10x's your credibility. It immediately 10x's your credibility. If anyone goes over to YouTube and checks out my podcast, whether you like the topic or not, whether you think, we have 26,000 subscribers right now or whatever. Maybe you think that's a lot or maybe it's not a lot. Maybe whatever. But the point is, if you go there and you just click one of our videos, you're going to be blown away. You're going to be blown away with how it looks and how it feels and how it sounds. I get comments all the time from people where they're like, holy smokes, like your thing is really good. Right? And the reason I'm doing that is because one, I want to stand out. I want to get bigger and better guests. I don't have the audience yet to command the level of guests I get. Right? The level of guests I get, they don't know me. Right? So what are we using? What are we using to show up 10 times bigger than we really are? I'm using like packaging, right? Like editing and motion graphics and packaging, because I own a production company, so we can have a really high standard and do really high work. But that time and that effort and that high standard and that high work opens up doors that frankly I shouldn't be opening. Gets guests on my podcast that frankly that I shouldn't be getting based on my audience size. Opens up conversations with sponsorship for sponsorship dollars that frankly our audience and our engagement doesn't warrant even. Because I'm leaning into the thing to say like, this is what I want. And that's just one strategy, right? But if you have a great brand, and people rarely do this, like let's compare A versus B. But in fact, what your brand will often do if it's poor is actually hurt your credibility or cost you business. Here's a quick story. I was at an event where I was speaking on a panel maybe 6 or 7 years ago about nonprofits and philanthropy. Right now, this is clear away from real estate, right? We're talking nonprofits, we're talking charities, we're talking philanthropy. But I know that world really, really well. And on stage, I was surrounded by people who are running huge billion-dollar nonprofits, huge cancer treatment centers, like some of the nation's biggest players. And then there's little old me with my agency. And at the end, I had like 20 people come up to me and they're like, I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you. And I handed them my business card. And that business card is really thick paper and it feels really great and it's substantial. And I give them my brochure, which frankly is way too expensive. It's like $18 a unit. Like it's ridiculously expensive. No one reads it, but they flip through it. And when they do, they get this impression of us. And I'm talking to them and it's awesome. They know that I'm the expert at philanthropy in this context. They say they want to have a meeting with me. I said, great, let's follow up. I didn't get a single meeting with anyone. How is that? Right? Like
why would that be?
I'm on this panel. I'm talking in front of hundreds of people. At the end, people are coming up gushing about how smart and awesome I am. When I follow up with them, I don't get a single meeting. And what I later found out happened was we're talking about nonprofits and philanthropy. Our website was pretty generic because we're doing all these different things for all these different people. And what they did was the people I was talking to would take my business card and they would hand it to someone on their team and say, hey, I met this really great guy. You got to follow up with him. And that person on the team would take my business card and they go to our website and go, I don't know, this is just, they don't look like they can help us. And then we would never get the next step. That's what improper branding costs you, though, right? The branding of me showing up, saying the thing that I need to say in the event, handing them the card, doing all of that stuff. I'm a badass, right? But my brand, my very own brand let me down because then I could never move on to the next step. And this is the issue. You and me and almost everyone that I know, but certainly the people we work with, they're like up here on in terms of being an expert, in terms of bringing a ton of value, of knowing their stuff, even if they're just starting out, like they're so good, but their brand makes them look down here. And for those who are listening, my second hand is much lower than my first hand. And when you can align those two things, when you can close the gap between how awesome you actually are and how people see you, when you can close that gap, you'll win more business. And frankly, if you can push it a little bit the other way, where people see you at even a higher level than you really are, going back to my podcast, right? People think I'm getting guests that I shouldn't be getting. I have all of this stuff happening that I shouldn't be happening because I'm actually showing up more awesome than my numbers really support me to be. Isn't that what we all want in business?
Yeah. And in your mind, in conclusion, I think you touched on it though. What's that missing link for that meeting, or not only just the meeting, but let's just say that rep that showed up at the conference hands your card now to the next person for that person to say, well, this is interesting. I want to get in touch with Mark because you didn't talk to that person.
Yeah.
Right. So what did your brand say to that person that wasn't there, that disconnect person? What did it say to them that says, hey, I need to get the meeting? What is that connection?
So I'll just speak a little generically, and if you want me to say the specifics, I can. But what you need and what I needed then, and what we all need is alignment. We need so the perfect world, the thing that I would love to be able to strive for, is to make sure that I say the exact right thing to the person in the exact right moment, in the right way to get them to move forward. That I drop my ad or my piece of content at the exact moment I need to drop it for them. Like this is like utopia. Utopia is that for every single type of person you work with or prospect, or every type of client or customer, or every person in your audience, you would just spoon feed them the exact thing that they need when they need it. Like that would be the perfect thing. And while if we went through and broke down every single type of person, we may have like 100 or 200 or 300 different types of combinations, and that's not achievable. We can certainly align those things better. So I'm talking about philanthropy. I'm talking about strategy. And I'm wowing people. But when they hit my website, at the time, what we said was, we know video. We're a video-centric agency. We will help you leverage video strategically. And what I wish I had done, at least for that moment, was actually drive them to a landing page that said, we know nonprofits, we know philanthropy, like tell the people what they want to hear so they can see themselves and they can go like, oh, these guys work with people like me. Oh, and that's the alignment. What you need to do, and we can get into this, one of the points that we kind of talked about was the three things that are needed for sales. We're kind of touching
three
on
players
that right now.
Yeah.
And do you want to jump into that, or I'll let you lead?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. I'm just thinking of like what you just said right there, which was having not only just a landing page, but like when that rep, that person out there that gets that card immediately goes to your site, it's the hook point, right? It's having that hook point out there because everybody has like a website that has all the services and drop downs. What you're saying is nobody even wants to go through all that. They just want to.
No. Not nobody wants to. No one will. You've just touched on the biggest mistake people make, which is this very assumptive approach that like people are going to look for information. They won't, right? That like, People will connect the dots, right? Like I'm in wholesale, and honestly, I don't know real estate enough to know what's adjacent to wholesale, but let's say that it's like, I do wholesale and I do rehab or something. I don't know. But you give me 2 examples. What are 2 things that are really close together?
I mean, long-term holds, like landlord tenant stuff and short-term rentals. I mean,
Perfect.
Same category.
So let's say that you wanted to go find a new lending partner to help you acquire companies. And to me, if I was going to go look for a lending partner, I would treat this as any sales or marketing campaign. Like, I wouldn't just like go and just bang on doors. When we looked for financing within our business, I treated it as a marketing campaign. Like, I developed brochures, and I wanted to win the most money at the lowest rate, the fastest with the least amount of paperwork. So let's say you want to go for a lending partner and you're like, "Oh, we do rentals." It's like, cool, but if you're not explaining the different types of holdings that you have and the different reasons that you may have them in your business, and you're not laying the breadcrumbs, making the story compelling, explaining why maybe you got into both of those things or how they service your business and how they benefit you. Maybe the short term works really well during non-recessionary periods, and the other one works really well during recessionary periods. Like if you don't do these things, but go like, lenders know this business. They already know all this stuff. Like, you're making too many assumptions. You're assuming they're going to look through this stuff. You're assuming they're going to read paragraphs when people don't read stuff. You're assuming that they'll connect dots that are clear to you because you're in this all the time. None of that stuff happens. Like you need to make stuff super simple. You need to connect a lot of dots, and you need to make sure that when people hit it, they can see themselves in what you're showing or who you're speaking to. So the number one mistake that I see, beyond like anything strategic, if we're talking about landing pages, if we're talking about websites, if we're talking about videos, the number one mistake people make is it's too generic, and it doesn't say anything that anyone else could say in your industry. But frankly, sometimes you can just take these pages and if you close your eyes, you don't even know what industry the people are in, and you're just making too many assumptions that people will somehow find some reason to like you over someone else, and that just doesn't win business.
Right. And Mark, like, if you were to say, like, what's the catchphrase, right? Like, not we do wholesaling or we buy houses or something like that, because that's what everybody does, right? They'll put that on the site. We buy homes, different from houses, because homes, there's like a feel good to it, right? What would be like?
See, that's so funny, because the reason I thought you went homes is because you might be thinking about apartments versus condos versus HOAs versus residential versus low unit residential versus high rise. Like the reason why I would use the word homes as a marketer is because it's like, I want to be inclusive of everyone. But that's a perfect example. If you do single family residential, you shouldn't say homes, because what does homes mean? Right? Like unless if you're trying to create this like warm, cozy feeling, but you could do that better through photography and through visuals than you ever could through the word you choose. So just say what it is you do.
Right. And so how would you phrase it differently, right? Whether you're doing
rehabbing
or Airbnbs, what is just an example?
It's a tactic, right? Man. It's a tactic. So what's our objectives? Where is this living? Who are we speaking to? What do they actually care about? What's the context for getting there? Then I can tell you what the message should be. But again, like I cannot tell you. A standard thing is like, we solve pain point A through unique way B. Like, that's kind of a standard approach. I talked about the gap, right? Like the gap between how awesome you are. So as a modern creative agency helping you show up as badass as you really are, right? Like, that could be our H1 or headline or whatever on our website if it was for us. But if it's for you, I'm always going to bring it back to strategy, because it's like people always say like, oh, I met with someone this morning who runs this amazing organization, but I went through the whole website and none of it said anything. Like, I don't know anything about them. Even though I went through their entire website, it doesn't say anything. It's just all generic stuff. And
they probably didn't have anybody that was actually going to break all that stuff down either. Either they did it themselves or they got what they paid for.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. For sure, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing advertising And see, so I talked about where I went with my agency up to 2016, and then I said I started to change it when it commoditized. In 2017, we became a full service agency, and we went from being specialized to being generic or general. I learned a lot of hard lessons. We didn't pull the pivot off, but we spent 4 years on performance-based advertising. So in Facebook, on IG, in Google platforms, running ads, doing creative, doing campaigns, and all of these things. And so when people would come to us, if you work with any agency, even if you're small, typically they're going to keep a retainer of, let's say, $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 a month on top of your ad spend. And I would always tell people, like, as soon as you turn on that ad spend, every day you're spending money. And if those campaigns aren't ROI positive, you're spending money. The hole is getting bigger and you're burning through cash. Now, at a certain point, you can just say, well, we spent $90,000 on learning. But if none of the campaigns over that time is positive, or ROI positive, if it hasn't provided a return, then you've just spent all that money. And it's happening every day. Every day the ads are on, you're spending money, right? So rather than learn that way, why not just take a step back and either hire someone like me or someone like you worked with, or just hire someone who's going to help lead you through it, or take the time. We have a free download, but lots of people have downloads. There's books on this. Like, take the time to figure out who you're speaking to and what you want to say. And we can walk through how to do this. I'll walk you through how to do this very, very easily. But take the time to do it so that way when you do turn on your ad campaign, you're already a bunch of steps ahead. You're not testing everything that could be. You're only spending money on the things that are already tested.
Interesting. I think there's just there's a whole new, in my mind, a reframing to like what we do, right? What's the perception and how do you really convey that message? So that's something that a lot of people can work on, whether they're just jumping into the business, whether it's real estate or whatever it is, or they've been doing it for 10 years. What Mark's really talking about are real strategies to elevating your business so that other people see it in a way that really captivates them, so they take action and do something with it. So look, Mark, amazing. And I know everybody's going to get tons of value from this. I know usually what I do, Mark, is that the audience is interactive. So you never know what happens. And I've been so engaged with what you're talking about. I'm just like, we're diving deeper and deeper. Why didn't the sales guy call you? So I just want to say, we usually engage with the audience. My producer, I think he was Mike. You were talking about something before, the mini DV tapes, the thing from the video session back in 2007. So just jump into the chat box, and I see Brett McCollum's watching. I love it, Brett. What's going on, man? Tuning in late. I love it. I hope you're right on your phone watching us right now, man. I love it. So I think a lot of people that do have a brand can learn from this. You don't have a brand, you can learn from this. But one thing that Mark definitely wanted to cover, which is the 3 players in winning sales.
Yeah.
It's all about sales, right? We hear people, sales cures all, and it's no different when it comes to brand. So tell us, because I feel like we've been leading to that journey, right? You're doing awesome with this stuff, like leading us down the path, right? And this is what we probably should do. This is a clinic for how your brand should be. What are those 3 players in winning sales?
Okay. So I love reading books. Do you know Extreme Ownership? Do you know the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko?
No.
Have you heard of Jocko? He's this Navy SEAL. He's this hardcore guy, and his partner Lev Babin wrote this book called Extreme Ownership.
I may have heard it in passing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's a great read. But these guys tell stories about, like, each chapter is a story about war, and then they break out the lesson in it. The reason I bring it up is the thing that stuck out at me, which was not the point of the book, but there's this line in it when he says, "Listen, you can have the best plans in the world. The best plans. You could have the best team. You could have the best tech, right? You got US Navy SEALs. Like, you got some badasses with you. But the enemy always has a vote. The enemy always has a vote in how things go down. So what I took from that is, in the theaters of war, right, there's 2 players. Right? You got the good guys and the bad guys, I guess, right? Well, in sales, in branding, in marketing, in advertising, there are 3 players. right? You got yourself. What do you want? What are your values? What do you want to build? How do you want to sound? How do you want to look? What do you want to stand for? What do you want to sell? What's your growth plan? Like, do you want to be the most luxury brand, or do you want to just help the people who are down and out? Like these are some strategic decisions, right? Like, what do you want? Most people suck at answering that question. The reason I developed that questionnaire all those years ago was because if the VP of operations could just tell me what they wanted, I would just go do that. But they didn't know what to ask. They didn't know what to say. They didn't think the way that I thought. Like they didn't know. So I had to figure out a way to pull it out of them. But you need to spend time really understanding and visualizing and picturing what you want. That's number one. When we talk about the three things, you have to start with you. Because all of those decisions will then inform number two, your audience, your customers, your prospects. Right? So you're in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you decided what you wanted to build for your law firm, I'm sure consciously or subconsciously you looked at other people or you talked to people or you made decisions and you were like, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But there had to be a reason why you operate in Florida as opposed to operating in 4 states or 6 states or 8 states or all 50 states, right? Like at some point you made a decision to operate in your state, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to have to keep taking every exam in every state also. So,
Perfect. That's a perfect reason though. But
Yeah.
that decision means that when you look at your audience, you really only are planning to sell or work with people in Florida.
Right.
And maybe if you had people out of state who are referring into you because you're in Florida and they're not, that's maybe a different audience or customer base. And maybe if you wanted to refer out to people who are moving to other places, you can build a referral network. And that's a third audience, right? Like a third group of people. And maybe if you decided within your Florida law firm that you were only going to do probate, a certain type of business versus other real estate law that might exist. But if you wanted to open up more, we now have, let's say you opened up 4 services with different groups, and you had then those 4 services offered both for locally and then a referral network out and a referral network in. You now have 12 groups of people, right? So the business decision of what you want to build and who you are dictates the groups of people, where they are and who they are that you want to go after. Do you follow that?
Yeah, it's interesting.
You have to do this. You do this consciously or subconsciously, and here's why. Here's the powerful reason why. Because what you're going to do then is you're going to learn what all of those different people want and what nuanced differences they bring to it. They want different services. Those services might have different timelines. They may have different dollar values. Some people might come urgently to you. Other people might have a really long sales cycle, right? The people who are referring into you, you might look at that and go, you know what? I'm spending so much time servicing these leads and they never ever close. I'm not going to keep working this business line anymore. I'm going to go focus something else. Like, so again, what you want dictates the group of people who you want to go after. Now, once you understand who those people are, what do they want? What do they want? This is the simplest thing you can do in marketing. If you know who you want to speak to and you know what they want, tell them what they want to hear. Tell them what they want to hear. It may not be the right solution, but once you enter into a conversation, you can start to shift, you can educate, you can inform, you can shift, you can sell. They come to you for what they want. You can give them what they need, right? Like there's a lot of things you can do once you enter into the conversation. But from a branding and a marketing point of view and an advertising point of view and a sales point of view and all of those things, we get so caught up going like, no, on principle. Like, no, you're thinking about this wrong. That's not how it works. No, that guy down the street's terrible. Like, if you understand what people want and you tell them what they want to hear, I think politicians may do this fairly well. That's like, just like admit it, right? Like,
yeah.
You can engage people. And once they're engaged and once they see you and once they start to learn more about you and they enter into a conversation with you, then you can shift perspective and then you can shift things. So player 1 is you. Player 2 is the audience. Define who they are, define the journey that they go through to get to you, and break this out based on each different group of person because they are all different, and understand what they want to hear. Ideally, like through our process, we also learn their demographics and their education level and their disposable income levels, and whether they come with a scarcity mindset, and you're going to speak to them from a risk aversion point of view, or if they want growth, in which case you're going to speak about hope. Like, we break down all of these things so we really understand the difference. Because again, you could have the client who comes from a scarcity and a risk aversion point of view, and it's going to be a different message than the person who wants hope and who wants positive on the other side. So understand them and define them. And then the third player is your market or the competition. Your market or the competition. Most of us look at the competition in a few different ways. We look at them and we go like, oh man, they're so big. They're so established. They're so good. I can never be like them. And we beat ourselves up. Or we look at them and we go, we're just as good as them. I spent a lot of time trying to be just as good as other companies. Let me tell you, if I'm just as good as everyone else, there's no reason to pick me. There's no reason to pick me. So what we need to do is we need to look at our competition, and we need to see who they are, what they're saying, who they're speaking to, where they're investing their dollars. And basically what we're trying to do is get like a path to their customers or path to their prospects so we can steal them. But if they are so good and they're so big and they're so well established and they've been doing this for so long, we can't beat them at their own game. Right? Like, it makes no sense to try and compete if they have it completely locked down. But we can do it differently. Right? So once you know what you want, and then you know who you're speaking to, and when you know what your competition is and is not doing, or what the market thinks or doesn't think, or what it will bear or won't bear, you literally have everything that you need to develop a brand, a message, a campaign that will help you stand out, connect with your audience, and frankly, increase sales.
So I definitely want to come back to you, right? To the three elements, right? You, audience, and the market competition. So we'll come back to you because there's a concept of investing yourself, right? But let's go to the market competition.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, it's almost like doing research on let's just say I am a short-term rental buyer, right? And that's the company we are. But it's not just that. You have all these Airbnbs. There's so many people that want to get out their properties and market it. So what you're saying is the research behind that is, what is everybody else doing that's working, right? Like what are you thinking in your mind of, wait a second, to build this out, what's everybody doing? Is it the research? Is it looking into stuff that they're doing? Like, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, like so let's say, and this will change depending on whether you're more B2B focused versus B2C focused. B2B is business to business, and B2C is business to like the end consumer. So let's say that you're looking to pick up properties for short-term rentals for Airbnb. I would run these three things. What do you want? Who are you communicating to or speaking to? And what's the competition like on the purchasing side? Right? Because if you're putting in offers and you want to be as competitive as possible, you want to figure out a way to win that. Now, maybe it's just dollars and cents, and maybe it's just negotiations, maybe it's like market caps and finance, and none of that other stuff matters. But I can tell you, like, when we had to rehome, I had a Rottweiler for 2 years who was just a little too aggressive for my neighborhood. When we had to rehome her, I went through this process, and I literally was like, what do I want? I want to send my dog to an amazing home. And who might be interested in it, and what do they care about? And then I looked at a whole bunch of other stuff, and I tried to find the best path to get the best person to find my dog, to take my dog. And if you're selling, it would be the exact same thing, right? Like you want to show the property in a way, you want to stage it, you want to do all of those things. But if we're talking about Airbnb on the rental side, like, we want more people renting my property than every other property that's out there, I would run the same thing off. Okay, so what do I want? Like, what type of do I want every day just full? Do I want to charge the highest price at the lowest volume, so that way we have less wear and tear, we have less risk? I'm not pissing off the neighbors quite as much, so I'd actually rather go with a lower volume rental rate or fulfillment rate at a higher price to make sure that I cover my costs, right? Like, okay, I don't know how many other decisions there may be, but maybe there are more decisions you want to make in terms of what you want out of this property. And then those decisions, even the difference between like lower cost, higher volume, let's go ahead and get occupancy like every day I want booked, or like 6 days a week I want booked. It's going to be a different strategy than I only care about 2 weekends a year because I actually want to use the property the rest of the time for myself, right? That changes. Number 2, who you're speaking to, right? Maybe you're going to go, maybe you're going to position this more for families. Maybe you're going to ensure that you don't rent to anyone who's planning on throwing parties. Whatever types of decisions you're going to have and what they care about and what they want, that's what you will later in the kind of the last step, craft your messaging about. If it's families, then you're going to talk about all the things that care of families in terms of amenities. Maybe you're going to allow pets to be there, right? Because maybe that's a big deal. Maybe you're going to talk about the fact that your cleaning service is actually a real cleaning service on Airbnb and not some BS total crap where you make the renter do all of the work and then you charge them a $200 fee. Sorry, I hate it when people do that.
Clearly, there's something that's coming out right now.
Yeah, but you're gonna go ahead and do that. Or you're gonna take photos a certain way. You're gonna make sure that the home is staged because that's your product. So you're gonna make sure that the furniture is a certain way, that it all looks a certain way because you want to go after that market. And then lastly, the competition. Of course, you're going to look at, well, what are the other people charging? What are the rates? What are the discounts? How are they marketing themselves? What are they saying? How much photos do they have? Do they have a video? Like maybe you want to do a video tour. I mean, I don't even know if Airbnb allows for video, but I don't know why you wouldn't be able to link out to a landing page that maybe even has a video tour, that maybe even shows the space a little bit better. Maybe even talks about the fact that, like, I know what's important to me is like, hey, if I need to get in contact with the property owner, it's cool that I can get in contact with them right away. But when we were in Kissimmee and we rented a place because I took my family to Disney and we showed up, there was no sheets anywhere in the house. But within 30 minutes, someone had dropped off brand new sheets that were just bought at Target. And we were like, okay, great. Cool. I don't really care. And so if I knew that though in advance, it'd be like, oh, if you ever need someone within 30 minutes, or within 1 hour, we should be able to be there, right? Like, that's a level of service that differentiates yourself from other people. So that might matter to the people that you're looking to bring in. And so you're going to look at the market and you're going to look at what, obviously what the pricing bears and obviously what everyone else is doing. And then you're going to try and do all of it better. Like, have the home show better, have the photography be better, give more details, have slightly better service, like just be better. And if you do these 3 things, and you write your ad and you take your photos and you do all of those things to look better, which takes time and costs money, you will stand out. If you will stand out, you will get more attention. If you get more attention, you're going to get more sales. You're going to be able to charge more dollars at a higher profit level. Like it just happens that way.
Yeah. And I truly believe in higher quality content, whether pictures, video. I truly believe that, right? That's all perception right there. Somebody could tell whether it was an iPhone photo or, somebody takes a whole camera or a gimbal and walks through the property and cuts it up, maybe a really nice edit. I think, there's definitely a difference there. So I can see that. Now, when it comes to the you in all of this, it always starts with you. Starts with you, Mark.
It has to.
Of course. Investing in yourself, right? I truly believe that you have to, more than ever, invest in yourself before you can really scale your business to where you want it to go. So what is your meaning behind investing in yourself when it comes to brand?
Well, it makes sense to me to invest in brand strategy and to invest in design and photography and social media and all of those things. But more than that, all of the things that we're talking about are, as you mentioned earlier, are really 2 sides of things. Like, one side is like the tactics. So you can invest a lot more dollars, but the side that I keep bringing us back to is like, you are worth taking the time. You are worth being a little bit slower right now and having some patience to take some time to set yourself up for what could be in the future, right? Like, I don't know if I'm being too abstract, but I speak to a lot of people who don't want to sacrifice something today. Like here's a great example of this. I was talking to someone who is almost turning 50 and she wants to do a career change that's pretty major. And I was like, okay, go do that. And she's like, like the money's good and I'm not sure. And 10 years from retirement and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, but let's say that you spend 3 years doing this career change and then you spend 2 years establishing yourself. Okay, you'll be 55 and then you'll spend the next 15 or 20 years doing exactly what you want to do, loving every single day of it. Like why wouldn't you spend 5 years to sacrifice to get the 20 years ahead? That is investing in herself. You getting healthy is investing in yourself, right? You going to and joining a mastermind group is investing in yourself. Me getting on a plane to come down and hang out with you guys when honestly, like I'm not in the real estate space, but that was me investing in myself. And so we can see it like in these examples I gave. You can be like, okay, that makes sense. But if you're self-conscious about your teeth, so you never smile, get your teeth fixed. Like, what does that have to do with branding? Get your teeth fixed. Spend the money, spend the time, do that. One, you're going to smile more. Your photos will look more friendly. You're going to come across better. You're going to be more confident. You're going to greet people with a firmer handshake. You're going to show up looking so much better. Invest in yourself, right? Your offices. You don't need offices.
Right.
But if you have offices, make them something. Make them nice. Whatever your version of nice is, invest in yourself, right? Like I have posters on my wall. My environment is one, earlier we were talking about tech stuff or whatever. Like I'm talking to you on a teleprompter. So I can look straight into the camera so that way I can always see the person I'm speaking to without looking off camera. Does that make or break anything? Not at all. But I spend a lot of time presenting on Zoom. I spent a lot of time interviewing. I'm very, very comfortable. I don't know how much I spent dollar-wise, but maybe I spent a few $1,000s. But more than that, I actually spent like 3 or 4 weeks testing different setups so that way I could be really comfortable so I could show up looking a certain way, right? That's investing in myself. And in your company, in your sales funnel, taking the time to understand what you want. We've already been on over that, but taking the time to understand your customers and your prospects and the journey you take them through. Making sure that you're not just slapping things together. These are all investments that will build a foundation for, again, that 10 times credibility, right? People will look at you and go, holy smokes. Your goal is that when everyone meets you, they're like, Al, it's you. Oh my God. Oh, that okay. Wow, you answer the phone. I didn't realize that. And you'd be like, what are you talking about? Of course I answer the phone. I'm a regular person. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Or when they come into your space, they're not like surprised, right? Like they're not surprised in a good way where they're like, oh, wow, your place is way better than I thought it was, because that means your marketing sucks. Or number two, they're not like, wow, this is a lot worse than I thought it was going to be, because then you're not you're under delivering. So like each one of these things now coaching, network, mastermind group, travel, photography, like all of these things that will help put out a persona are all investments that, frankly, you have to stop what you're doing. You have to take time. You have to spend money. But all of those things will help you level up to the next level and the next level and the next level. It'll change how people see you. It'll change how people treat you, and it'll change how you show up. So just do it, please.
Yeah. Yeah. No, hey, Mark, I hear you. I agree. I think it always starts with you before your business really takes shape. Right. But a lot of people, they feel like they're hesitant to even do that. And then it reflects on their business and getting started in what they're doing. So
can I tell a quick story? Right. Like, so I was working with Les Brown. Do you know Les Brown, the motivational speaker, yeah. Les Brown?
Yeah.
The legend of motivational speaking. He spoke in the 80s. He spoke in the Georgia Dome in front of 80,000 people. He had a television show. He was married to Gladys Knight. He tells stories about hanging out in Vegas with Frank Sinatra. Like he's a real deal. And he's hosting this event in New York last August. COVID was still going crazy in New York last August. And I'm working with his team, And kind of on spec, they were like, why don't you come down and see if you can help us out? And I was like, okay, cool. And I called them up though, and I was like, listen, if I'm going to come down here, I just don't want to, I don't want to come down here and then just sit in the audience. Like, please, like, I need, like, let me know that if I'm going to be coming down here, I'm going to be helping out. And so they're like 100%. So I figure out all the details through pandemic and through all of this stuff, and traveling to New York was like insane. And I go down there to help them out. There doesn't seem to be an opportunity day one. Day two, they're going super, super heavy and like late. They're running late on everything. And so that doesn't seem to be an opportunity. And then late in the day, like all of the stuff we had planned completely got scrubbed, completely got wiped. Wasn't able to do anything. And I'm walking home. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I flew to New York on my dime. I put myself up to help them out. And there's not like this hard feelings, but it's just kind of like a low point, right? Like I took this risk and I did this thing and I just wanted to help and I didn't even get a shot at it. And it's nothing against them. It was just the event was going long and our stuff got cut. And then the next day I get up, go to the airport, struggle to get home. I get home anyway. It was just like a bummer of a weekend. But you know what? At that event, I met this guy named Jeff Lerner, who runs this company called Entre Leadership, which is a $100 million company. And we got to know each other backstage and we have become friends. He's actually going to be at the next Family Mastermind event because I connected him with Matt.
Oh, wow.
But on top of that, it's like, one, I was at Les Brown's event. Now, if you don't know Les Brown, maybe that's not a big deal, but people who know him, like he's a big deal. So like I had friends who were like, you're talking to Les Brown, you're backstage with Les Brown, you're at his event. All of the keynote speakers who had flown in, I was there for. I was hanging out with them. I was talking to them. I was connecting with them. And on top of that, I got photography. And on top of that, I got a great story. And on top of that, I took a risk that I would normally not take, but I'm proud that I did it. And I built other relationships. And where this all led was like over the course of a year, by this May, I did the exact same thing for Ed Milet. I don't know if you know Ed Milet or not.
Definitely heard of
him. Podcast has released a great book called The Power of One More. Well, through my network that I've been able to grow and doing things like this, the same type of opportunity came up. My friend Steven is hosting this event in North Carolina, in Raleigh, for Ed Milet's book launch. And I say, Steven, I want to come down and I want to help you guys. But I just don't want to sit in the audience. And he's like, well, Mark, I don't really know what you can do. Exact same thing. And I'm going like, oh, here goes another one of those. But I'm like, Steven, please let me come down and help you. So I fly down there to stage manage. I'm like helping to set up chairs. I'm the guy vacuuming the red carpet. I'm getting people coffee. And I'm going like, secretly in my head, I'm kind of thinking like, I'm pretty deep in like, my ego's starting to come up. Like, I'm pretty deep in my career to be like an assistant. And then everyone shows up. And I get to stay backstage and hang out with Dean Graziosi and Ed Milet and Andy Frisella and Marie Forleo and Jenna Kutcher and Jim Quick and Eric Thomas was there. Like just all these huge names. And we're literally just hanging out for the day. And I get to ask them any question I want. I get to spend time with them. I get to tell them how their work's impacted me. I spoke to Ed Milet for like 20 minutes backstage, just one-on-one, and he gave me some advice. And as I'm flying home, I'm thinking like, oh, this is why I do this. Because I've been trained, you've been trained, we've been trained on the tactics, right? Like, okay, I'm going to spend X days and I'm going to spend X dollars. How do I get sales out of this? How do I get something out of this? And part of investing in yourself is also just being like, how can I just take my gift and just give it to other people? How can I take my gift and give it to other people? Because it costs me time and it costs me money to do that. But when I do and I pour into other people and I'm just there to serve and I'm just there to help, they are very generous and it opens new doors and it helps them out huge. Now, let's break a little bit of the magic here. I just told you two stories that I've purposely told many, many times because I name drop a ton of people. Mm-hmm. That's branding.
Boom.
That's
right
branding.
There. That's not a tactic.
But I did it strategically.
You did.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because I haven't gotten any sales out of this, so I'm leveraging it.
But when you leverage it, I don't know if you've ever tried it before, but does it generate sales?
I don't try to make it generate sales. I don't.
But does it in a different way? Like all of a sudden, like does that?
It will. You know why? Because we have a podcast outreach program. Like I asked to be on your podcast because we met each other and kicked it off. But I have a podcast outreach program, and guess what? Like what I hear, like I had Lisa Bilyeu, Tom Bilyeu's wife, Lisa Bilyeu, from Impact Theory and from Quest Energy Bars. They built a $1 billion company and sold it. I had her on my podcast. Marie Forleo, her book, Everything is Figure Outable, changed my life. I told her that, so we took a selfie together, and that selfie's on my social media. Some of the people I'm hanging out with now and some of the people I'm connecting with, even in a very small scale, when we do our podcast outreach, before people were like, who's Mark? Now they're like, who's Mark? Let me check him out. Oh, okay, please come on my podcast. And then I'm going on the podcasts, and the podcast is increasing my reach, and it's helping me get better. And I'm practicing my delivery and my story. And then that leads more people to my free download or to my website. And the more people who go to my website enter into my remarketing campaign, which builds up my lookalike audience. And my lookalike audience then introduces me to new people. And those new people download more stuff. Then they go on my email list. And then they buy. So me flying down to these events or even telling these stories, where I started off with is no one wants a brand, right? They want the sale. They want that last step that I mentioned. But what I know works really, really well over the long term to build an asset, an actual asset of value, is to do all of those other things that I was mentioning and do the advertising and the marketing and all that stuff too. But do all of those other things because it will naturally lead to more attention, more awareness, more credibility. More people take you seriously. More people who do that want to work with you. They end up just bringing you opportunities. They just end up bringing you stuff. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. And packaging everything that you talked about, which is gold, right? So all these things that we've gone through in the last hour and a half, people can take all of this stuff and really apply it. So, Mark can tell you this all day. He could go through all these different strategies. We won't call them tactics because now we know what different tactics are. This is a tactic. So you can take all of this stuff, but apply it and really leverage that in your business with building out your other systems and your websites and your social media. But really taking all of these things will help leverage your brand, your business. So, Mark, I think it's amazing. I mean, this is definitely something to rewatch again and again because there's just so many different pockets of you went really into it and went deep, but really digesting this is a whole other thing, right? You got to digest it and then take it and then think about it. And I like what you're saying is, a lot of people will watch it and go, oh, wow, we got to do this right now. You're like, no, take the patient approach, take it slow, back up, think it through. You don't have to rush through everything. And that helps people too, because everybody's like, it's an instantaneous world. So we got to do it now. Take a step back, breathe, think about what you're doing, think about it and write it down over time. That's something that I've learned too. Just take down the notes over time so that you build it together.
And I don't want people to stop, right? Like take a few days or maybe a few weeks or something. When people work with us through the entire process, it takes 10 weeks because it's a massive process. But you can just take a moment and work through it.
Yeah, love it. Mark, how can everybody find you out there? I mean, because if you're thinking about getting into this or building out the brand and you want to take it to that next level that Mark's talking about, because this is the tip of the iceberg, right? This is just the beginning. This is the overlay. In Mark's mind, I could see it. He's like, there's just so many different things that can happen, and it all depends on your industry and your business. But Mark, how can everybody get in touch with you if they're interested in really starting to elevate their game?
Yeah, I want to make everything super, super easy. If you head over to my IG, which is @MarkDrager, it's been along the bottom scroll as well. I'm sure there'll be a link in the description. Just send me a DM. Send me a DM and say you were listening to Al's show and ask me any question you want. If it's the type of question that I can answer then I'll answer you. I'll type back a response or give you a video response or an audio response for sure. If it's the type of question that, frankly, we need to jump on a 10, 15, 30-minute call on, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm more than happy to do that. Because so much of what I'm talking about is like both like foundational and strategy, but it's also custom. So I really do wish I could be like, I have this package and this package is perfect for these people and all of these things. But what we do is we help teach this so that way you can use it in your business, or we do the process for you, and you get to be the one who's kind of like the film director. You're like Steven Spielberg. You're like, I like this, I don't like that. Oh, that's really interesting. What about this idea? And like, you have a team of people who are working for you, and they're running things by you, and we're informing you of all of these things we're learning. But we don't have to get into that now. What it comes down to is just go over to IG, send me a DM, say you were listening to this, and let me know if there's something you need help with. And if a little bit of time and a little bit of advice I offer helps point you in the right direction, that's what I want to be able to do.
Love it. And what's the podcast? I don't know if we had that on the, I think we do have it right
there. Yeah, we do hard things.
I love it. Tell us, what is that all about? What's the podcast really getting into?
So it's really a show about facing fears, taking big risks, and chasing down dreams. And so whether we're talking about business building, or we're talking about building a brand, or even in your home life, wealth, health, and happiness, all of those things, I honestly believe that many of us spend time trapped in a life we thought we wanted. We spend time trapped based off of the fear of judgment of others. Or we spend time trapped just not pursuing the things that we know will make us happy, because it does tend to come initially at a cost. You're sacrificing time, you're sacrificing money, you're looking like an idiot because you suck at it, whatever it might be. And so I like to connect with people who have done badass things. So these are people who are athletes. These are people who are in business. I talked about our Navy SEALs already that we've kind of connected with, and people in thought leadership and motivation. But each one of these people at a certain point decided that they were going to do a pivot, that they were going to make a change, that they were going to place their passion and their happiness above others. Because when you are doing something, this is the way I explain it to my wife. Okay, let's say you pick something. I want to be an accountant, and you're not really in love with being an accountant. Or for me, I would be a terrible lawyer. Let's say that I wanted to be a lawyer. I would suck at that. But I'm going to go ahead and do it. I know that through grit and determination and consistency, I will pick up the skills. But every time something goes wrong, every time there's a setback, every time there's a bump along the way, I'm going to be like kind of grumbling along, which means I'm only going to go so far. Now, if I'm spending my time doing something that I absolutely love, that fires me up, that I'm passionate about, that's in my zone of genius, yes, there's going to be stumbling blocks, and there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be setbacks along the way. But that's when you hit the point where learning doesn't feel like learning, because you're kind of obsessed with it. And the mistakes that get made don't really feel that painful, because you're like, oh, yeah, that sucked. But, what about this? And so just excitement and passion and being happy means that you show up to work better. When work goes better, it's less stressful. When it's less stressful, you show up better for your family, you show up better for your friends, you have more control over your schedule, you can work on how you physically look and how you feel. Like everything about your life is better when you prioritize yourself, which sounds like the most selfish thing in the world. And so I think that's a hard thing for people to do. That's what We Do Hard Things is about. We want to help you level up you, breaking through those fears, taking those big risks, chasing down the dreams. And the way we do it is we connect with people who have already done it, person after person after person, who's like, I've done it. If I've done it, you can do it too. Or we connect with the people who help give you the tools, Stanford professors who will help you break down why certain types of addiction will hold you back from your business, or how hypnosis, like meditation, can help calm you down if you suffer from anxiety. So we're connecting with all these cool people. I just get to have fun having cool conversations. But at the end of the day, the audience gets to pick up all of these amazing stories, inspirational stories, motivational stories. They have fun along the way. And there's a lot of learning there.
That's super cool. That's just a wide range of different experiences that you could package that. I mean, one person, the Stanford professor, doesn't have the same experience as somebody else that you may have as a scientist. So that's got to be really cool. I think everybody should check it out. I'm going to check it out because that sounds really cool, that there's different things in a wide variety. So check out Mark's podcast. And Mark, I think you dropped so many valuable gems, people watching or people that watch this later or listen in the car or listen, on the go. Or, I know Mike's got ready. He's got so much micro content ready. He knows exactly what the last week on the Al Nicoletti Show is going to be. So it's just so many valuable things here that we can all learn from, whether you're the lawyer, the photographer, videographer, the real estate guy that's doing short-term rentals, whatever it is. You can learn so much from this episode. So I just want to say thank you for coming on and really talking about that, dissecting it. I almost felt like at one point when you were going through stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, this is getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
Oh, sorry.
No, great. I was like so locked in. That's when you're really learning and really starting to think through things. And I think your ability to force us to think on what that is, you have a unique style to that. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, it's like a unique style of like you pause and it's
my brand, man. It's my brand.
Forces you to think, and you're like, wait a second, what are we doing, right or wrong, or what's the answer? And really, it's all personal and experience to what you're doing. So, just want to say thank you for coming on late. Hey, we were talking about yawning before. There was no yawns at all.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing but energy here. And
yes.
I cannot wait to be able to connect with you in person next month.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited for that. I mean, I love seeing you back in March, and I'm going to see you in September. It's going to be awesome. So can't wait for all the special guests that are going to be there. I can't wait to see you on stage doing some kind of MC up there with Matt. So, Mark, for final words, final thoughts on anything when it comes to brand, what you're doing, what you're getting into, or what somebody can really focus on, anything. Final words, final thoughts.
The most important thing you can do all day, every day is really know in the moment what you want. What do you want? If it's like, I'm hungry, go get a sandwich, and that's cool. But once it's clear to you what you actually want, every other step along the way becomes so much easier, so much simpler. There's no tracking back. There's no looping back. There's no like suddenly we're pivoting left and suddenly we're pivoting right now. Just what do you want? Answer that question. Love it. Super sweet, super simple right there. So focus on that and focus on all the other things that Mark was talking about. It was crazy. We'll do that in the recap at the end, but when we close. Mark, thank you again. I love it. Awesome stuff. Can't wait to see you in September. And it's a wrap. You did awesome, man. Thank you. I can't wait to see you soon. Yeah. Have a good one. Okay. Take care, man. Wow. I don't even know where to begin with that one. There's just so much that he talked about. Time flew on that. I couldn't believe I looked at the clock and it was like, we were already an hour and 30 minutes into it. I was like, whoa, I know at the 45-minute mark, like I was telling Mark, at the 45-minute mark, the way he was dissecting everything and asking the questions, I felt super locked in. And I was trying to answer the questions myself, of what he was going through. So much to unpackage there. And I know we went through a lot of different things, whether, what's a tactic, what's really brand, all these things that are going through investing in yourself and the 3 players in winning sales, talking about you, the audience, and market competition. So many different things. If you missed any of this, whether you're watching live or you hopped in late or you hopped in right at the end, you got to go back and start from the beginning, because it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, or whether you've been in business for 30 years. There's something to learn from what Mark's business is, or what he has learned from doing and being that strategist in branding, on how you can improve and get that perception from the audience that you want. And not even just perception, but for them to do something so they do the next thing and get with you about this stuff. It's amazing. Whether you're in real estate or any other business,
So many valuable nuggets out there. And I hope you all enjoyed that too. I know Mike, he was loving it. He said, super inspiring. Thank you. So love it. Love what Mark was talking about. So if you want more content like the Mark Drager episode, right, on branding and really getting yourself out there, you got to check out all the guests that have been on the Al Nicoletti Show. Because actually, what's funny? Mark was the first one that really went through branding. I've never had anybody on that talked about branding. I don't even think there was anybody that talked about social media. So that's what's unique about the show. We're bringing on different sectors in different industries. And Mark was the first when it came to brand. So this is unique. If you scroll back to season 1, season 2, season 3, you're not going to find it. So you got to watch this one. But if you want more guests that talk about different things in their industry, real estate adjacent, diving in real estate, things that help with your business and brand, got to check out the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. You can catch the lives, which go live on YouTube and Facebook, but you can catch the replay on those as well. And all the micro content there's probably about 10 to 15, 20 micro clips that we can make on Mark Drager from all the stuff that he did. But you can check out all of those that drop on Facebook and Instagram at Attorney Nicoletti. I hope you all took so much from this. This is one of those episodes that I feel like I got to go back and watch again and again and actually carve out certain spots that Mark was talking about, because there's just so much in there that you can really digest in what you're doing and every day, and investing in yourself. Truly believe that. That's a whole other thing I could definitely talk about at a later time, but truly believe that it all starts there before you really even keep scaling your business. Because I really believe that at a certain point, you can keep scaling, but then it's going to hit a threshold of where are you? And if you can't focus on what you're doing and improving yourself, this is not going to go higher. I believe that. So I hope everybody takes a lot from what Mark was talking about. Truly believe it. And it's a wrap, everybody. I will see you next week on the show, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. I know we have a special guest coming up, so you all got to check that out. But again, go check out that episode that we just had with Mark Drager. It was fire. It was awesome. Tons of golden nuggets. So I will see you next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great night. See you soon.